Give up your name, give up your breath. Power is waiting, power in death.
Hello and welcome to my vlog. I am William A. Rumley and this is my journey to writing. Stay tuned and enjoy this once a week vlog. Hello. Contrary to popular belief, I did not get burned alive in the Netherlands. Almost, but I'm back. So here, let's talk about what we're going to do today in this vlog. Welcome back. So in this vlog, I'm going to talk about the chapter, how to plan for and work on a chapter. And then we'll move from there. We're going to continue the character archetype, and this week talk about the mentor archetype, give you some updates, and then see where we are with everything. Stay tuned. Fun times coming. Oh, and let me add, all the artwork and all the music that I use is all of my creation with AI. So, let you know. Thank you. Hang around. So, the map before the journey. When you are going to write a story, a chapter comes into play in a strange and weird way. Because a lot of the writing I've done, I get stuck at beginning the chapter. And once I start, the path comes and it keeps going. The start of the chapter itself, it follows a structure of writing that makes it easy to manipulate or to process and put into your storyline. A single chapter doesn't tell your whole story, but progresses it, or starts it, or ends it, depending on where the chapter is. The best way to think about it is a chapter is a threshold into the next part. So, like the path going to the doorway at the end, each dot on that path is a new chapter. So, before a character ever speaks, before a plot ever moves, the writer stands in the edge of a blank chapter, a doorway to the unknown. Let's see what that means, where we go from here. There is planning and there's over planning. Okay? So you need to leave yourself creative room as you build this stuff. However, when you are planning out a chapter, you can build an outline as an intentional discovery. And what that means is that you think you want to do this in that chapter. Sometimes a chapter says, no, I'm going to do something else. But those are the discoveries. What you want to think about is in the chapter is the emotional units, not the structured units, the emotional achievements, the things that you want the reader to feel. And that's what changes here. Planning is not about control, it's about the clarity of the purpose. You can even contrast this. Instead of plotting out a build, like a person building a house, you plot out the land, you actually discover the land. You actually build with the feeling and then step by step go further from it. When you're doing a chapter, you have key points that you want to make, but how you get from point A to point B to point C, that can go all kinds of ways. And those are the things that you want to focus on. Building a chapter doesn't always have an opening, a twist, a resolution, and a climax. A chapter itself is part of the journey to achieve all these things. Think about this 36 stories. Inside of a single book, normally you do not run the entirety of the story book with one character on one journey. You have multiple characters and each can have small little side journeys and sometimes multiple plots that at the end merge into a final conclusion. And that you have to think about as well because that defines what your individual chapters will be like. When you're all ready, then you have a nice framework. Then the first thing you have to do is you have to breathe the first breath of the chapter. Opening lines of the chapters sometimes carry the time and the structure and the tone and the pacing of the whole chapter. An example is the great writer Stephen King. You see, mostly every chapter begins with an antidote or with a um, parody. And what he introduces in that is a tension and a theme that he carries forward through that chapter. Introducing tension shifts perspective, reveals new information, or drops the reader into motion. A re-anchor to the emotional state that you achieved in previous chapters, or to prepare them for stuff that's coming. It is the first breath of the world as it is changing in the mind of the reader. So I keep saying the emotional essence of a chapter is what you want to achieve more than just your outline and your paths and your things that you want to achieve. These emotional upbeats are called beats. They're the pulse of the chapter. There are different kinds of beats. You can break them into three types. You can have an action beat, which is something that physically happens. You can have an emotional beat, which gives internally gives shifts. And art's a revelation that becomes something that becomes known. A chapter lives or dies by its beats, not by how many or how are, but by how necessary they are. And so the beats of the heart of the chapter. Discoveries of the writers and the characters. So as you're preparing, you do the opening and you decide, okay, this is going to be an emotional beat chapter, so you need to achieve the emotions of this discovery or that thing. You have planned discoveries, and then as you're writing, something opens and other discoveries come. And what I like to say is the things that you planned out yourself, those are your discoveries. But the characters are going to make discoveries too, and you're going to go, huh, I didn't think of that. The characters have a life in your book. They have a life in your imagination. Discoveries are what you make while writing. Discoveries is what the character makes while they are being written. Discoveries that the reader must make in order to achieve the beats or to achieve the objectives that you have in that chapter. Now, the best chapters can align to all three of the beats. The chapter becomes unforgettable when the writer, the character, and the reader all learn something at the same time. Ending on hooks are connections. So a chapter is not alone in your book. And maybe your book is divided up into sections as well. I call my sections books. So an example, Revolt on Prime is divided into 4 sections or 4 books. It's not that they can be separated out to make 4 books, but they have 4 sections. And each section has a achievement, a purpose, and a goal. When you end a chapter, you want to have the reader do one thing and one thing only. Turn the page to the next chapter. That's a hook. Or you want to give them something to think about as you take a new chapter on another subject and then have them come back to this maybe in 2 or 3 chapters later. That's a connection. The hook leaves the reader leaning forward, a question, a twist, a danger, a revelation, or a promise. The connection links the chapter to the next. Emotionality, themology are an example. A quiet revelation, a shift in relationship, a symbolic image, a thematic echo. Then you can give a signature line. A chapter should never end with silence. It should end with a vibration. So that's my take on a chapter. And as you see, I'm not telling you how to write it. I'm just giving you ideas on things that you should consider when you're trying to figure out what you want this chapter to do. And realize it's one chapter of maybe 20 or 40, depending on how big your book is. Um, but always try to achieve your objectives. Your story, your storylines progress in every chapter. Even if you're putting it aside and you're dealing with another storyline temporarily, like a good comic book, you can always have a hint or a link. And just like a good chapter, it needs a guide, an emotional structure, a mythic. Our stories need guides too, which brings us to the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the archetype who stands on the threshold of every hero's journey, the mentor. Let's move on and see the mentor archetype. The mentor archetype. It is a lantern flickers in a vast darkness, not bright enough to banish the void, just enough to reveal a path. A silhouette stands beside it, not a hero, but the one who waits for the hero to arrive. As mentor of crossroads and thresholds, the keeper of half-remembered wisdom, the voice that speaks when the world falls silent and steps forward. We call upon the one who teaches not by answers, but awakening the questions deep in the soul. Mentors stand with one foot in the realm of the known and the other in the realm of the possibility. They are the hinge in which destiny turns, the ancient pattern of the elders who guide the young, the seasoned warrior who trains the untested, the mystic that reveals the hidden laws of the universe. But the mentor is not merely a teacher. They are a threshold guardian, a torchbearer, a living archive of hard-won truth. The mystic force is a transmission, the passing of power, knowledge, or courage from one soul to another, so that the story may continue. At the heart of a mentor lies the paradox. They guide because they have been wounded. They teach because they once failed. They uplift because they know the weight of failing. The mentor's emotional core is grief transformed into guidance. They carry the ache of their own unfinished journey, and in the hero they see a chance, not for redemption, but for meaning. Their love is quiet, steady, sacrificial. They do not seek glory, they seek continuity. The mentor has two masks, as all the archetypes do, the outside and the inside. On the outside is the wise, composed, unshakable mentor appears to have answers, perspective, and is calm. They seem like somebody who has already walked the path and returned with clarity. The inner mask is a trembling of awareness, of time running out, a fear that they may not have not taught enough, or that their students will repeat their own mistakes. Beneath the calm lies a soul who knows how fragile transformation truly is. The mentor's mask reveals a truth. Wisdom is often a shield forged from one old scar. The shadow form of the mentor. When the mentor falls into shadow, their guidance becomes control. They cling to the student, fearful of being surpassed or forgotten. They hoard knowledge, withhold tools, or shape the hero in their own image. The shadow mentor is a tyrant teacher, the manipulative sage, the elder who cannot release the next generation. Their flaw is not malice, it is simply the fear of irrelevance. The light form of the mentor embodies liberation. They teach so that students may outgrow them. They offer wisdom without demanding obedience. They empower rather than direct. The light mentor knows the deepest truth of all. The purpose of the guide is to become unnecessary. Their gift is not knowledge, it is courage. The guide, the teacher. The mentor appears everywhere in folklore and history. Merlin guiding Arthur towards kingship, Gandalf igniting the courage in the hobbits, Chiron training heroes who will surpass him, Buddhist masters who teach through paradox, African Gerots who pass down ancestral memory, indigenous elders who preserve the wisdom of land and lineage, Sufi teachers who awaken the heart through riddles and silence. Across cultures, the mentor is the keeper of continuity, the one who ensures the flame does not die between generations. Mentors is a major component of the saga of the Warden of the Dons. As a matter of fact, the primary purpose of the Wardens is to be mentors to the new heroes of the worlds that they visit. Mentors is a very strong supporting role character and is one you should consider using. You may even already use it not thinking of it. When the moment comes, the mentor will step aside, not because they are finished, but because the hero must walk forward alone. Now, that's probably the hardest thing to write, is to let the mentor leave so that the hero can become a hero. Now we see the mentor's lantern dim, and the path stretches onward. As the mentor bows and the silhouette dissolves into the dark, ahead another presence stirs, not a guide, but a challenger, a force that tests the hero not through wisdom, but through opposition. Next week, we will meet the archetype who stands in the hero's way and reveals what the hero truly fears. The adversary awaits. And now it's time for updates. Well, there's not a whole lot of updates this week, primarily because we spent most of the week being cooked on the broiler here in the Netherlands, and pretty much most of Europe have been suffering from massive heat waves. And it's difficult to make achievement. But I did get one chapter written in book 3. So we got one chapter in. My beta reader wasn't able to do any of the reading this week. But the book 1 sales are still alive, and thank you for that. The big thing is we got cooked. We're in the middle of the heat wave, and hopefully it's relieving a bit today, and hopefully by Monday, when we return to work, it'll be a little bit on the come back to normal temperature side. And then I hope to get several chapters written next week. I also plan on building a new music album, and maybe I'll release some more images. So as you can see, at this moment, there are 3 albums available for you, 2 off my website, and I think I'll build a link to the 3rd, but not with music playable from the website, because I want you to go to Music GPT, build yourself a free account. It's a great application. For you can even have 500 credits to build your first songs, and it even has wonderful videos to teach you how to do it. The artwork you see here is made by Copilot. Um, I like it, and Copilot can make some nice album covers for the music. As everything goes, my rule of thumb, if the AI makes it, it's for free. So the music you see here is all for free. It's primarily off a Music GPT system. You can download the music as you want. We are looking at how to put it into Spotify, but I can't do it with any kind of subscription because if it's free for you, it's got to be free for me. I do hope you enjoy the music that's here. I keep adding songs occasionally to this, and as you can see here with my playlist, I have more music coming. I have albums for the book 2 and book 3 are already there. I have meditations, and every time I make a song, I make an alternate. So I have a gigantic alternate collection with all the alternate versions of every song in the alternate collection. I'm not publishing that, not yet. Um, do take a look. Let us know how you like the music. As I reflect on my writing journey this week, the temperature and work has taken a lot of my time, but my imagination is still alive. I'm very happy with the chapter that I wrote this week. I'm very happy with the way the story is progressing. The input that I'm getting from my beta reader on book 2 is also giving me ideas on how to make it stronger, give it more for you, build the story of part 2 as strong as book 1 was. So I hope that you have enjoyed this vlog, and we hope to see you next week. Bill out.
I was born in the